Alright, what's going on everybody? So this is my review for Crackdown 3. So first let's start out with the story, or lack thereof depending on how you look at it. So 10 years after the events of Crackdown 2, a terrorist organization named Terra Nova releases blackout attacks that kill power all around the world. And the agency traces the source of these attacks back to New Providence, right? So now the agency has to dismantle this organization by attacking, base infrastructures to gain access to the lieutenants and the heads of the different divisions within Terra Nova and defeat all of them. So it's a very paper thin story with virtually no development. I honestly can't call it a story because to me a story has different elements and a certain amount of depth to it. This is like really kind of like an introduction or a launching pad to give you a very basic reason as to why you're doing all these superficial tasks in Crackdown 3. There's just simply not much of a story, plot, or narration. And I don't think anybody expected that, based on what we know about Crackdown 1 or 2 and if you played it, but that still doesn't excuse the absence of 1. And that's really all there is to it as far as Crackdown's story goes. Now let's get into the gameplay, which we all know is most important because there are games out there that we all love that lack story but make up for it in the gameplay department. But Crackdown has several problems in that department. One, it feels dated and a little cheap, meaning that it lacks a lot of gameplay elements and small details that you would find in its contemporaries of modern gaming and even games that came out well before it. It's monotonous and it's very limited in the depth and scope of what its gameplay offers. It doesn't really do much to offer variety in its gameplay either. The game requires you to do certain tasks located around the map, like freeing hostages, destroying chemical stations or monorails. You kind of get the gist. We've seen it in other games. Each task affects a different division in Terra Nova's organization. For example, there may be the security division, then there may be the chemicals department, that sort of thing. So once you destroy enough chemical stations, for example, then the lieutenant or the bodyguard to the head of that division, their location is revealed on the map. Then you go and defeat the lieutenant, and then the head of that division becomes available to fight too. And then you go to their location and take them on. And then it's rinse, repeat until you get to the very head of the entire organization. While doing this, you traverse around the city collecting different orbs to power up your character, and doing that unlocks different abilities. Agility orbs are stationed around the city, and you get orbs for other abilities by doing actions related to them. The boss fight designs they're really lackluster, except for maybe like one or two. No exaggeration, I defeated one of these bosses just by locking on and moving in a circle and holding the R1 button. If you think I'm joking, watch this. That just simply shows that these boss lacked a lot of intricate design and depth that I can just run around the circle and pretty much be free from all harm and not even worry about it. And mind you, I am playing on the second to hardest difficulty in the game, right? But the weapons and tools in the game are pretty fun to use, and there's a good variety of them. There's a decent number of enemy types, and they all have different types of weapons, and they do, oftentimes present a challenge. I honestly despise any game that has lock-on aim though by default, and you can't change it in this game either. It's just it's aimbot, flat out. It's aimbot, and I feel that games that allow this take too much control of an important mechanic away from you. The traversal has its fun moments, but eventually everything in this game does eventually get old kind of quick. Fortunately, I was able to beat this game in 10 hours, okay? And it was not like I was rushing through it either. I actually took my time with this game. It was 10 hours according to the achievement stats. Let me break Crackdown down for you. Crackdown is 70% collectathon, 25% shooting and blowing stuff up, and 5% boss fight. The only real problem here is the 70% collectathon. Like, the collectathon screams laziness or last minute development, and we know this game has been through development hell. The game is inflated and completely saturated with busy work and countless things for you to collect, and the game is just filled with vain content. It's just these superficial tasks for you to get, right? Because here's the thing, okay, you beat the game. Well, you collect the orbs so you can empower your character in order to beat the bosses and beat the game. But once you beat the game, what is the point in collecting the orbs if their only purpose was to make you stronger to beat the boss? You get what I'm saying? So there are other games where once you pretty much beat the boss and you beat the game, there's still some fun and still some entertainment and satisfaction in going around and collecting what's left. There is no reason, no point, no fun in collecting the orbs that are left after you beat the game. There's just no point to it. And it's an absurd amount of orbs to collect. Like I said, I took my time with this game, and I beat the game in 10 hours, and I gotta say, at least like 3 of those hours I spent just running around the city doing mindless tasks. Literally whatever I ran into, I did it. So I spent time collecting orbs, doing all this side stuff, and yet there are still hundreds and hundreds of orbs to collect. It's ridiculous, and there's no point in doing it. There's a line of putting, if you're gonna put this pointless busy work in your game, there's a middle ground of putting just enough and putting way too much. This game has way too much, and they're doing it to inflate the game, to make it seem like there's way more to do and make the game look way more dense than it actually is. But like I said, there's no reasoning behind it, and it's just not fun at all. So let's talk about the visuals. I played Crackdown 3 on PC, 1440p ultra settings, and the game ran phenomenally, at high frame rates. I've had terrible experiences with games from the Windows Store, as I know many other people have had also. So I expected poor performance and plenty of crashes, and I got the exact opposite. The game never crashed. The game never had poor performance. It ran very well and smooth. So from a technical aspect, this game is very sound and very solid. And the game has all the bells and whistles that you would expect from a PC version. And it even has a pretty detailed performance setting that you could use for benchmarking. It has the extremely specific settings like, vehicle, character, and effects texture detail. And they're all well implemented into the game. Texture and a high level of anti-aliasing gives this game a very clean and sharp presentation. The lighting and shadows are present, contrary to, what we've seen in some game trailers. Might not have been from the PC version. The bloom and, the ambient occlusion obviously are very important in this game because there's a lot of vibrant colors and it has all these neon lights on the buildings, and that's just the entire world pretty much of Crackdown. But the most vital aspect, I would say, is the particle effects, because this game, is all about the explosions, and they look very good. and it never actually affected my performance. You know, even when I had a lot of enemies on screen, a lot of explosions, particles, and just a whole shitload of activity on the screen, the game never really like buckled, or it never really affected my performance much. That being said, the animations are very poor and dated, and this game just feels dated overall. Even though the visuals are high quality, the ceiling for visual fidelity is pretty low. And cel-shaded games still have a place in gaming and in the industry to me, even though it seems to be used less often. But I don't think being cel-shaded is the game's problem. The game just simply visually looks dated, and the world doesn't really feel alive even when the population is visible. The best thing about New Providence design is the verticality, though. And the game gives you, all the traversal ability to scale it and explore it easily. So in that department, Crackdown, I would say actually does perform very well. All right, so it's verdict time, y'all. Is Crackdown as bad as many say? And is it as good as some fanatics say? Which end of the spectrum is it? It's honestly more towards the spectrum of being bad, but not as bad as, what's been said. It's very far from the spectrum of those saying it's being hated on and it's actually very good, though, right? It's, like I said, so it's more towards being very mediocre and average. It's not a good or a great game, but it's just not absolutely trash either. It has a few fun moments, but it's not enough to redeem the game from being, mediocre and quickly becoming very stale and boring. There's no story to keep you motivated, but the graphical presentation is better than expected. I give Crackdown 3 a 6.5 out of 10. I honestly think that is the perfect score for this game. And yeah, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for watching all of my reviews. I've been, trying to be consistent with all of my reviews and play all these games, and I appreciate all of you watching. Please make sure you hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you can know anytime I upload a video. And if you're not already, please subscribe. Thank y'all for watching once again, and I will catch y'all later. Peace.